So the ATF is moving forward with their new pistol brace ban, and they have just sent it to President Biden for approval. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think a ban on pistol braces is clearly unconstitutional, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank one of the main sponsors of this channel, which is Kershaw Knives. Kershaw manufactures close to 1 million knives in their US factory every single year and employs roughly 400 people within the US. Kershaw produces a broad range of knives to meet every single person's needs. From a $20 Walmart knife all the way to a $200 US made automatic knife, Kershaw has you covered. So I highly recommend Kershaw Knives. I carry one of their knives every single day for my EDC. And right now, if you order on their website, you can get free 2-day shipping on orders over $100. And that offer will last until the 9th of this month. So if you're interested, go pick up an early Christmas present for yourself by going to kershaw.youknowwhat. And thank you again, Kershaw Knives, for sponsoring this video. How's it going, everyone? My name is Anthony Miranda. I am a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California with an emphasis on Second Amendment rights. I've been part of Second Amendment litigation both at a state level and a national level while serving as a staff attorney with the Firearms Policy Coalition legal team. My goal with these videos is not to provide you any legal advice, but instead to give you greater insight into the inner workings of Second Amendment litigation and just help you understand what's currently going on in the battle for our right to keep and bear arms. As I mentioned in the intro, in this video we will be discussing how the ATF is currently moving forward with their new rule on pistol braces, which attempts to treat any firearm with a brace attached as an actual SBR and therefore subject to the NFA's restrictions. According to multiple reports, including various Second Amendment organizations like FRAC, FPC, GOA, and others, the ATF has now submitted the final rule on pistol braces, and it's been sent to the White House and President Biden for approval. Now, if you don't recall, the ATF announced 2 proposed rules recently. One targeted 80%ers or so-called ghost guns, and the other targeted any firearm with a pistol brace attached. This year, we saw the ATF release their final rule on frames receivers that went into effect in August. The new rule by the ATF makes 80%er parts kits essentially subject to serialization and background checks because they are now treating them to actually be firearms under the definitions of the NFA and GCA. The proposed rule on pistol braces, which is the issue of this video, seeks to create a new rule where any firearm with a pistol brace attached to it or a purported stabilizing brace attached would likely be considered to be an SBR and therefore subject to the NFA's restrictions. This means that the ATF wants to make all firearms with a brace attached to it subject to registration and taxation by the ATF, and that the ATF will treat it to actually be an SBR. The ATF's proposed rule on pistol braces created a weird report card system where you would have to add up points to your card based on what features were attached to your firearm or what features your firearm actually had. And last year, the Department of Justice also released a statement of their intent on what they intend to do with this pistol brace rule. They stated that the DOJ is planning to amend the regulations of the ATF and set forth factors considered when evaluating firearms with an attached stabilizing brace to determine whether they are considered firearms under the NFA or the GCA. They go on to state that this rule is intended to clarify when a rifle is intended to be fired from the shoulder and to set forth factors that the ATF will consider to determine whether or not a firearm, an item with a stabilizing brace attached to it, is a rifle and therefore is an SBR subject to the GCA and NFA. The DOJ stated that their goal with the proposed rule will be to amend the definition of a rifle in the Code of Federal Regulations by adding in a sentence to the end of each of the definitions. The new sentence would clarify that the term rifle includes any weapon with a rifled barrel and equipped with an attached stabilizing brace that has objective design features and characteristics that indicate that the firearm is designed to be fired from the shoulder, as indicated by the ATF worksheet 4999. So in the DOJ's prior statements of the intent of this new pistol brace rule and ban, they state that they are creating new factors to determine when a firearm has objective features which indicate that the firearm with a brace on it is intended to actually be fired from the shoulder and therefore is a rifle instead of a pistol. In doing this, the ATF is coming up with a worksheet that they mentioned, the 4999 worksheet, which creates factors and adds a point system to determine when something is actually a rifle instead of a pistol. And under the worksheet that they had in the proposed rule, we saw that almost any firearm with a brace attached to it would likely gain enough points to now be considered to be an SBR and therefore be subject to the NFA. Now, after the proposed rule was released, we all commented against the proposed rule in an attempt to actually stop what the ATF was trying to do. In response to all of this, the ATF indicated in a lawsuit that they have now responded to the 211,000 comments that they actually got on that proposed rule. They also indicated in that same lawsuit that they plan to drop the final rule before the end of December. The case that they revealed all this in was the Second Amendment Foundation, the SAF v. ATF case. That case aims to force the ATF to adhere to the correct administrative processes when trying to create new rules like they are trying to do here with the pistol brace rule. One of the main thrusts and arguments in that case was that the ATF's actions actually harm thousands of law-abiding Americans and citizens nationwide, including people with disabilities, and also the firearms industry that actually helps those people. And they argue that under the ATF's actions, those people and companies would wrongly face the threat of criminal prosecution under the ATF's unlawful rulemaking. In response to that case, the ATF definitively indicated that they plan to release their pistol brace rule before the end of the year. Then after making those claims, the ATF actually had that case halted, and it's going to be stayed. That whole process, that whole case is halted right now until December 28th. Well, now all of this has finally come to a head with the announcement that the ATF has completed the final rule on pistol braces and that they have now submitted it to President Biden and the White House for approval. The likelihood is that the White House will simply just give the final rule on pistol braces a rubber stamp, and then they will go public with it very soon. What the final rule will look like right now, we don't know. We don't know what the final terms of the final rule are going to be. There will likely be some changes, some differences from the proposed rule to the final rule. We saw that happen with the final rule on frames and receivers. It was a lot different from the proposed rule. There were some changes. It was a lot longer. They had to respond to all those comments. But right now, what the final pistol brace rule will actually look like, we don't know. So we'll have to wait and see what impacts it will actually have. Also want to mention that there are current indications that the ATF will be offering some sort of amnesty period. Again, what that will look like, we don't know. But indications are that they will have some sort of registration amnesty since they're going to consider all these firearms with braces attached to them under that point system, under that worksheet 4999. They're likely going to consider them to be SBRs. You're going to have to register them. But they're saying that they're going to have some sort of amnesty, likely some sort of waiving of the taxation of the SBR. Now, whether or not you want to do that, right now we don't know what that's going to look like. But again, just because they're waiving a tax stamp doesn't necessarily mean you want to register those items, especially since there's going to be a ton of litigation trying to halt the enforcement of this rule. So that is where the ATF pistol brace ban currently stands. The plan was to actually release it before the end of this year. And now indications are that they have finalized that rule and simply send it to the Biden administration for approval. So although the White House will likely not listen to us, like I said, they're probably going to just rubber stamp this. I still recommend reaching out to your representatives and let them know what's currently going on, that this is in the president's hands, and that we as their constituents want them to oppose this and to tell the president to not approve this final rule. That is one thing you can do right now as an individual. And also, I recommend keeping an eye out for various organizations that will likely be seeking plaintiffs soon once this rule goes into effect, once it's dropped as well. They're going to be trying to get plaintiffs. And so if you're interested in that, just keep an eye out for those organizations like the FBC, GOA, SAF, other organizations will be seeking plaintiffs. And so if you want to take the next step, these cases always need plaintiffs so that they can actually sue the ATF for these types of rules. So this is something we will definitely be keeping our eyes on. If I get any more information, I will let you all know. Also, if you like this video and support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm or fuel Al Gore's rhythm. It adds fuel to his jet and signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation is built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.